Immediately after you cut sugar, you're gonna see visible changes in your, uh, I would say not visible, but mental changes in your brain, because I think I heard it. I heard some Shark Tank. Yeah, I think it's Kevin who said like, the coffee creates this brain fog, and the sugar that you consume in the morning is what creates real problems. In general, the when you cut off sugar, what happens is you lose cravings. Like you don't eat more. This is what I saw in my life. Like whenever I feel like super depressed, uh, I would just reduce my sugar intake, and immediately I would see like good things happening all around. I'll just feel rejoiced. I think sugar has like the sugar consumption has direct correlation with our mental state. I think there's no proof of it, but in my life I've seen it many times. The brain fog that it creates. Oh my God, I cannot even start describing about it. Uh, I personally never I don't have a habit of drinking coffee, tea, or milk. I don't like the smell of milk, but I eat a lot of sweets, right? And every time there is like a sugar overdose, that's when like find myself being depressed and like not feeling like doing anything. I just can't move from my bed. But for like 2 days, if I just stop eating sugar, I'll see like, oh my God, what was I thinking all this time? Why am I not acting on my goals? Like, that's what I think. But then cutting off sugar completely is not a really good idea. So I think reducing the intake of sugar over time is going to help you. If you consume like, let's assume like 100 grams of sugar from random sources throughout the day, maybe you should reduce it like half, and eventually you should decrease it. And I'm not saying you shouldn't consume fruit, but most fruits are not healthy these days. But you can just stop eating sugar from actual sweets or Coca-Cola drinks, and you'll see visible changes. And that is something I advise it to my friends, and they also said the same thing. Like they stop consuming sugar for one whole day, and the next day they feel like a completely different person, right? Like mental changes are like clearly visible after 2 days. And I'm not advising you to completely cut off sugar. Maybe the first 2 days that you're trying to get out of depression, you might try that. But eventually, just reduce the sugar consumption over time. Like, like if you drink like 5 Coca-Colas per day, maybe just don't drink like over 2 Coca-Colas, and over time just reduce the consumption. Obviously, if you're going through a fitness diet, uh, the coach advises you not to touch sugar at all. And like we'll see many fitness influencers after they win a particular championship, they just go straight to the crumble cake or some Dunkin' Donuts, and they just taste the donuts, and which is not advisable because you did not really develop a habit of cutting off sugar. You were just like avoiding it until whatever you want to achieve whatever you want to achieve happens, and boom, you're getting back to sugar again, which is not advisable. Instead, you can just instead of treating intake of sugar like an elastic band where you just cut off the sugar for like 10 whole days, and the next on the 11th day you eat so much of sugar like your brain just floats in fatigue and fog, right? Instead of that, uh, maybe you just keep yourself in position where you don't snap back at those bad habits, and like like reduce these bad habits over time. Like if you drink like I said, if you drink 5 Coca-Colas per day, I mean, I don't think anyone does that. An average human may not do that, but I'm just saying like for units purpose, like if you drink like 5 Coca-Colas per day, maybe reduce it to 2 Coca-Colas, and over time just don't drink Coca-Cola itself, right? Like anything that gets digested easily is gonna increase your glycemic index immediately, which is increasing your chances of getting diabetes. So it, it's just not about depression, but it's also about your like diabetic health. So just cut off sugar and you're gonna see, like you'll be surprised. Wait a minute, I did not consume sugar for one whole day and the next day I feel this much of change, like what's happening? And that's all because of the brain fog that sugar creates. And I don't know what happens scientifically inside our brain, but it is visible. Like you can see like okay, but I'm not saying like after 2 days just go back to eating sugar, but not so much. Previously before this 2 days, how much ever sugar you were consuming, don't get back to that. Maybe a little less sugar, but over time, just reduce sugar intake, and you're good to go. You know who used to go on walks, long walks in evenings? If you guessed that right, comment. But it's Albert Einstein. He used to go on walks and get ideas and get back to work and work on his ideas. So I'm not saying it's some uh, you know, like it's something a therapist or a or someone who is like medically certified to treat depression would advise. But every time I felt low, I just go for a long walk, and I'm not saying the depression just weathers off, but due to that physical activity, I get sweat, and somehow I feel like I accomplished something in general. I think there is some dopamine hit after I complete like 2 kilometers, 3 kilometers on Strava, right? Uh, and I just get out of depression. Like, uh, I'm giving advice for people who are like feeling super low, right? They feel like killing themselves, and if you just go for a walk, that feeling is gonna wither down. I've been in that position like so many times, and yeah, every time I feel a little low, I just go for a really long walk, like 2, 3 hours, at least 50 minutes, and everything just gets back to place. While walking, I walk by myself. I do advise to go with friends, but most of the times I just go by myself because like no friend of mine is gonna come for like 2, 3 hours on a on a walk on the beach side. I live in Vizag, so like it has like a really good beach line. So you can walk for hours and there you can still see the beautiful beach and the beautiful sunset. Oh my God, it's a really good place to live, and I somehow feel good. And I just um, and another thing I observed is like when I go for a walk and after I finish the walk, I just lose the tension and the stress about future. I don't know what the relation is, but I just lose the tension about future. And I think that's why like I get out of depression because most of my stress comes from uh, procrastination and just not achieving many things that I wanted to achieve, and also from the because I'm a like stressed about procrastination. That means I'm stressed about future, right? Like, and I'd go for a walk, and I just feel good, and I'm just telling things that worked in my life. I think if you're like super depressed, you should go to a medical. You should take someone's help, like medical help. Um, but in general, I've always tried to walk long distances. I'm known for walking like long distances, and it really helped me in general. And there's a little hill near my home, and I just hike it every time I feel low, and I really feel good after reaching the top of the hill. I take photos and yeah, just upload it on my Instagram status, and like I just feel good. I don't know why. Like most of my depression came from procrastination and stress about future in general. And after I take walks, I just get a little clarity because while I'm walking, Brain is just occupied on like making sure I'm not falling off, right? Like and looking if there are some snakes, because our genetics are just made for making sure that we are safe in jungle or in just in environment, any environment in general. So I think brain is getting occupied on some physical tasks, so your brain is free and you can think anything and you're not going to be stressed about it. So like while walking, I got many ideas, like super good ideas. I've never executed them, but I've got many ideas, and I carry a little book and a pen with me anywhere that I go. Like even before I sleep, I have a little book and a pen because I don't know when I get some random ideas, like a little bulb on my head. I feel like that, and I just write those ideas. And I've written so many ideas. I think creative juices just flow when you're walking. And they also say like your life expectancy is kind of related with your calf muscle, not calf muscle. I don't know what they call the thigh muscle, and also the femur bone. Yeah, you're like if you walk, you're you're like increasing your life expectancy. So it's a good thing. It's a good thing. So just go for a walk. I'm not talking about running. I'm not talking about jogging. I'm not talking about super like deadlift exercises. I'm just talking about walking, which I'm sure you like. I assume you have enough time to go for like 15-minute walk, and it would still make a difference. I'm sorry. And that's it. You'll get mental clarity when you walk. I don't know what's the relation between brain, uh, like uh, this clearing the clutter off and just thinking about productive things when you're walking. I don't know what happens neurologically, but every time I go for a walk, all my thoughts just fall into place, and there you go. I get from being like super low and depressed to pretty good. Not, I wouldn't say like super good mood in general. I just want to get out of that that blackness, that darkness, right? Where I feel like I'm stuck and I cannot go anywhere from there to just okay. Maybe if I take one action per day, maybe I can achieve anything, because you cannot hike a mountain in one go. But if you just take one step at a time, and before you know it, you reach the top. And I think that's the understanding that my brain concludes every time I hike the mountain or just go for a walk. And like I look at the Strava app, which like creates a little map of where you're walking towards the end of the walk, and it just feels like a good accomplishment. And physical activity is good anyway, right? It's good anyway. Getting sweat is a good thing if you're slacking off. So yeah, you're depressed because you're not meeting your Maslow's hierarchy of need for social engagement, right? If you're someone whose eyes light up when you talk to a stranger, like when you feel good when you talk to a stranger, and like like you really like, oh my God, I met a new person. I like him or I like her. I like this person. It might be younger than you, it might be older than you, it doesn't matter. If you just feel good about meeting new people, then you're depressed because you're not having enough social like social interaction. And obviously this being this lone wolf guy or lone wolf girl, or like being by myself, I don't need anyone, that is kind of marketed online. I do believe like you don't need to be so much dependent on someone. But look at history in general. Every great thing, every great wars, every great accomplishments happened because of a group. Like Romans won the war. It's a Byzantine Empire. It's a Turkish Empire. Sure, you'll hear like, well, Alexander the Great led them. Yeah, but he did not win the war by himself. They did it as a group. The whole sports entertainment industry, the whole like movie industry is just based on people having similar interests and having similar problems. How do you think politicians win elections? they relate with you because they talk with you about the problem that you share. You share zero problems with a politician. Politician is a billionaire, is a trillionaire, is like a millionaire. You have zero problems with him, but the politician tries to relate with you. He'll talk about problems, and it's like you. In fact, the some people they're just addicted with attention. Like people who have like million, 2 million, 1 million followers, they're like addicted to so much of attention that they'll just feel depressed if they don't have attention. And I'm not saying you should be in that position. Don't get yourself in that position where you'll feel like not doing anything if you just don't have attention. But you shouldn't be so lonely, you shouldn't be so alone that just talking to a stranger is going to make you feel good. Then you're not actually meeting your Maslow's hierarchy of social need, and you should act on it. And if you have like zero friends, right? And I used to be in this position, especially during COVID, right? Like when I just cannot get out, and even after COVID passed, some restrictions existed in the place that I live in, and like people were not able to meet. So what I did was well, this happened in university, so I just joined a club. If you're in school and there is like no hobbies going or like no classes, no special classes that go on in your school, and you sit in a chair and not a bench. If you sit in a bench, then you can talk to people that sit beside you. If you sit in a chair, then after school you can join uh, something that you like. You can join a music class or a swimming class. I'm not saying you should like music or swimming, but it's gonna make sure your social need is gonna be filled. And when your social need is filled, you're not gonna feel depressed, right? In fact, most of the depression for many of us comes from loneliness, right? Because we don't talk enough with real humans. And you can just see like people who are super social, they're not that depressed. They're not depressed. They might feel low, they might cry, but they'll just give out their emotion. They're super expressive. They do not rot in their bed. Think about all the things that can happen. Think about all the things that have happened in their life. The more social some people are, the more expressive, the more happier they are. And obviously, due to internet, we're all isolated. We are super niched in our brain. Like we have some niched, opinionated things on some things, and we have no idea about some things. I understand it is so hard to interact with an average person because we might have super good knowledge about a particular thing, and that person might have nothing, something like that. And people see maybe if I have a little relatability with someone, then I can talk. So people look for what is relatable with me. Do you like red color? I also like red color. Instead of doing that, why don't we just have conversation on some common thing like politics or uh, I mean, I personally don't see sports, but most of the population is entertained by sports, right? So maybe talk about cricket, maybe talk about football, maybe talk about your favorite show on Netflix, and you can just start a conversation. Starting a conversation might look like the hardest thing, but the more people you interact with, the more you interact with new people, new strangers in general, you'll get used to it, and it'll feel like, wait a minute, all this time, this whole new world of social interaction existed outside of my world. That's how you're gonna think, and it's like a super good thing. And this will happen if you keep yourself in position where you can talk to new strangers, right? When you go to swimming, there might be like another 20 people who are just beginners just like you, or maybe some are experienced. You can ask doubts, right? Or some people might be someone who is like less experienced than you, and you can just give them advice. It's a super good position to be in if you're like depressed and you feel good when some stranger talks to you. You're definitely lacking that social need, like in Maslow's hierarchy of needs. uh, and that's what you should do. You should go and talk to new people. And like I said, if you're in school, you can join some hobby you already like, or even if you don't like it, You can learn a new skill. A new skill is always a good thing. You don't know you don't know what doors will open because you took a decision to learn a new skill, right? Or you can go to Discord and join a community where you can interact online. You can join a voice chat and interact. And I'm not saying like go and play video games, which is kind of addictive, but you can just interact. You can talk. I'm talking. I like. I'm telling about actually talking, like using your voice to interact with someone, and your depression will go away. This helped me a lot, and if you have best friends, right, you can just call them. If you're in college, I'm pretty sure you'll have a mobile phone and you can call your best friend and talk to him, right? And I promise you, uh, people will not reject. Like, I mean, if you go and propose a girl, she might reject. That's a probability. But people will never say no to talking to you. Like, you might be super duper ugly. You can be like someone who has like, I'm not describing ugliness here, but I'm just saying like many people think, okay, I'm ugly, I've achieved nothing. Why will people care about me and why will they lift my call? Many people think like that. I used to be that guy, so I'm advising for my younger self through this YouTube video. Obviously, my younger self is dead because I'm in the future, but I'm just saying like people people don't care. Like people never care. If you call them, they will lift the call. If you message them, they will message back. Unless you stop talking to them suddenly out of nowhere. Like if you just ghosted them out of nowhere in the past, maybe they wouldn't reply. But in general, people would reply unless they're like super strangers. Obviously, you wouldn't get replies from a stranger. You wouldn't reply to a stranger thinking you are some spam or like you're a bot. But if you have people whom you know and you have their phone numbers, you can just call them and ask like, "Hey, how are you?" And they might, and because you call them after a long time, they might say, "Hey, what happened? You called out of nowhere." And you might say, "Well, I'm just checking up on my old friends," and they wouldn't feel bad. How would you feel, right? Like you you were sitting randomly on a random Tuesday, you get a call from your old friend. You probably wouldn't think of a reason why should you cut off the call. You would just talk, right? And that's the same thing that would happen. And thinking from a third person perspective, that's what this is has helped me in life. Like um, if you're calling someone, right, and thinking from that person's perspective, is it called second person perspective? Yeah, second person perspective. Um, is most of the problems, most of the overthinking that in social interaction situation will go off if you just think in second person perspective, right? Like, what would I do if some of my old friend calls me and talks with me? I would feel good. I would feel super like cool, man. Like someone is there to call me after these many days. Like I would feel good, and that's the same thing that would happen. And if you have like zero best friends to call to, and you're like super social anxious, you can just join a new club. That's the best decision ever. You know why? Because you can reintroduce yourself as a completely new guy because those people don't know how you are. You can like create a completely new personality near them, right? Like your school people might know you as this timid guy who doesn't talk to many people, but your swimming class people might know you as like the super social guy who greets everyone, who smiles, who looks into eyes while talking. It's an endless possibility when you join a club. When you join a new club or a new class, and there you go. That's your solution to being social, which would take off your depression and maybe increase your social interaction so that you someday you can use those skills to flirt and maybe bag a girl, I guess.